Good evening. My name is Zon Eastis. I'm the chair of the Guilford Selectboard, and I'll call this meeting to order. It's a regular meeting of the Guilford Selectboard on Monday, June the 12th. It's 6:30 now. I'd like to welcome everyone who's here in the room. Nice to see you all. And also the folks that are online. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I do have a request for folks that are online. In order for us to have proper records, we need everyone to adjust their screen so we see your first and last name. And if we don't see your first and last name in the next couple of minutes, then we will need to move you to the waiting room. It's in order for us to keep track of what's going on. So, and also folks that are, we will mute everyone as we go along here. There are several people that are unmuted. If you can mute yourself, that's great too. Thank you. Yeah. All right. All right. We will continue to mute people if we need to. Not that.
No.
Doesn't say that on it.
Oops. Oops. Where it went. So,
Oh,
okay.
I think John just went down to
All
the
right.
bottom.
Okay. I think we're good now.
John.
All right. So John, if you can adjust your name, and the person who's listed now as iPhone, could potentially be many of us. If you could adjust that, that'd be great. Thank you. And then we can get going on the meeting. We'll watch that for a minute more and make sure that everyone's in good order. So, thank you. We'll start the meeting by welcoming the public by reading the rules of procedure. Rusty, thank you.
The Select Board recently adopted a new set of rules and procedures. They are no longer the Select Board rules of procedure, they are the Guilford Public Body meetings and have now been shared with all committees and commissions. They are here in the chat online and published on the town website. The rules request that everyone present at the meeting conduct themselves in a civil manner. Tonight, individuals will have a reasonable amount of time to comment on actions the Select Board is considering. Comments and questions will inform the Select Board's decision-making process. Individual comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Comments will be heard, not responded to. There will be no exchange between the Select Board and a commenter. No questions will be responded to. Any questions raised will be recorded and responded to in a timely fashion. Additionally, here in the room and in the chat line online, there is some basic information which includes how to contact the Select Board members, how to secure a spot during the community comment portion of the meeting, how to get on the agenda, and how to communicate with the board via mail or email.
Thank you, Rusty. All right. So let's see, we still have a few folks that need to identify themselves for us, please. I see iPhone. Need to find a way to identify yourself on the phone. Adjust that. And I also see JAH iPhone. If we could have that adjusted as well, that would be great.
John.
Barry, if you could please mute yourself. And JAH iPhone needs to mute yourself. We also see a person named John online. Need to see your last name, please. Thanks very much, folks. Just so we can keep good order, so we have good records for the community as we're all going forward. Tonight's meeting is full. There's a lot for us to cover. A lot of high-level stuff, a lot of emotional stuff, I'm sure. So I'm glad you're all here, and we'll try to do everything in the best possible order with lots of civility and hopefully some understanding as we go along. First thing on our agenda, though, after the rules of procedure, is to welcome the public by in our community comment period. And at this point, I've turned it over to Miranda.
Okay, we're lucky to have 3 different people making announcements. And Richard Davis, can you begin our community comment? Maybe you could make yourself visible to us.
Oh, okay.
There it is.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, you're there, but we need to. Can you change
Can
the
we
view
make
up
it-
there in the right-hand corner? You change that to
There he is.
speaker or gallery.
Oops.
Speaker is good.
Speaker is
Yeah,
better.
speaker is good. Okay,
But if he speaks, it'll be.
Sorry.
There he is.
there we go.
Okay. You just wanted, I'm assuming you wanted me to comment on the air quality issue. Is that what you were interested in?
Could you speak up?
Can we turn this up a little bit?
Oh.
I checked the plus button on this. All right.
Okay, go ahead.
The air quality issue from Canada, as far as I can tell at this point, it's decreased quite significantly. I don't know exactly what the level is, but when it was really bad, I did send some information to Miranda, and I think essentially the recommendation was when about a week or so ago, when it was really bad, that people with health problems or respiratory problems wear a mask, N95 mask, stay indoors as much as possible. I think, and then there were, different levels depending on how severe the smoke was. So it wasn't very complicated. I think it was a pretty simple issue to deal with. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted. This sheet really does cover it all, and you can make that available to people, and then they'd have all the necessary information.
Good to do. We can do that in the future.
Thank you, Richard. We'll be calling on you to come back and report to us as we go into thinking about, safety and emergency planning. I think as health officer, you're going to have a lot to offer us. So thank you for coming.
Okay, great.
Really, good to see you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so Leah Gessner is going to speak. Leah, are you
I don't
on
think
Zoom?
she's here yet. Yes, she is there.
Okay, here I am. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to remind folks that Guilford Cares is doing a series of 6 senior walks, 1 per month. And our May walk was in Green River Village. Tomorrow is our second walk, and June 13th, and it's on Abijah Prince Road, and we will be able to take a peek at the Lucy Prince and Abijah Prince cellar hole, which is a real treat. And we'll be walking on a class 4 road. And then we have Topaloo Guild Farms that we're going to visit in July. August is Hayes Road, and September, Fort Dummer Park. And then we have one out of town that we couldn't resist, the Black Gum Swamp in the J. Maynard Miller Municipal Forest. That should be fascinating, and we'll have a guide from the town of Vernon who's knowledgeable about black gum trees, which are very fascinating. We do not do rain dates. So we will always show up, but we let people make the call about whether or not they want to come, depending on what the weather looks like. It looks like we may have rain tomorrow, but maybe we'll luck out, and it doesn't look like we'll have thunder showers. And we'll be carpooling at the Broadbrook Community Center, and then heading down to Abijah Prince Road. We've chosen these locations because we wanted to try to have historic interest, as well as getting outdoors and enjoying the company of everyone as we take a nice walk. So each one of these walks has a guide who's prepared to share some interesting and fun information. And hope to see some of you folks. Thank you.
Thanks, Leah. That sounds great. Okay, next we have Jeannette Tokarz, who is in the house, as they say. Jeannette, you want to come up here?
I apologize in advance. Half my brain is on managing my sciatica and half my brain is on, But I'm here tonight to inform the public of a meeting that's taking place on Thursday. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Conservation Commission, but we're doing something unique, that they'll be holding their meeting from 5:30 to 6, and then from 6 o'clock on, the Planning Commission will be joining members of the Conservation Commission, and hopefully as many members of the public that can show up at the Broadbrook Community Center, 6 o'clock, second floor, to have a presentation by our strategic planning consultants from Du Bois and King that will center on the recently released Natural Resources Inventory completed by naturalist Patty Smith. It's an amazing document. It will soon be available on the town website once some formatting issues are kind of worked out. But the topic will really focus on high-value conservation areas in Guilford and how that knowledge of conservation concerns can help guide the Planning Commission in its work. So it's kind of trying to really align the Conservation Commission with Planning Commissions in their work moving forward. And we hope that the public can attend, again, 6 o'clock Thursday night at the second floor of BBCC to really engage in a really thoughtful discussion and a brainstorming around conservation and planning. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, get well. Yeah.
Really.
Okay. Thank you, Miranda. Thanks very much for that. All right, folks, we'll move on to the next order of business, which is the any changes to the agenda, and we do have one we need to put on this evening, and that's that we need to look at the question of Guilford listers, consideration of that. So I'd like to make a motion that we add an agenda item. We can add it at other business after the warrants to consider the lister situation in town. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Michael. All right, since we're all here in the room, is there any discussion about that right now? Just about this motion. We'll discuss the issue later, just to get this on the agenda, okay? All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, so all in favor, great. Good. Now we move on to the next part of the agenda, which is called updates and reports, and I want to just say.
Approval of the minutes.
Oh, yes, thank you, Miranda, you'll always keep me online. I want to make sure that we see that Julie, not Julie Beat, but another person named Julie, we need to see your last name on the screen, and also Mary as well. So there should be three, if you're on a laptop or a computer, there should be 3 dots in your picture box. Adjust that and you can rename yourself that way. And if we don't see that, this will be the last call for that. If we don't see an adjustment to that, we will have to put you in the waiting room, just for record keeping. Thanks very much. All right, so now we go to approval for the minutes. Thank you.
I so move.
All right, the minutes of May 22, our last meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Rusty. Any comments? Anything? No, something? All right, thanks. All in favor? Aye. All right. Any opposed? Any abstained? All right, thank you. Then we go to updates and reports, the next point of the agenda. This is where the select board hears on every meeting we hear updates from various parts of the community. Very common to have a highway update, but we also have other folks that come in and talk to us about issues that are going on in the town that we want to make sure that the select board is aware of, as well as for the community to know about. So we'll start first with Dan. Why don't you come up here, Dan, if you don't mind? Thanks. Just bring us up to speed.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We are grading roads, doing some culvert work, some ditching. We had a little problem down on Hollow Road, past Yaw Road, that when they were putting the power lines in, they found one of the big culverts down there that was getting undermined. So we had to go down and rebuild the header on it, haul a bunch of fill in, get the shoulder built back up. They came in last week, did center lines I think it was last Monday night when they came in and did that. The other thing is, last meeting we tabled our stone, I don't know if it's on the agenda.
It's a little bit later in the
Okay,
agenda.
all right, we'll talk about that later then, but we're just doing our routine maintenance, and everybody's trying to use up their vacation time before the 1st of July, so.
All right.
But I'll be on vacation next week, or actually this week starting tomorrow.
Okay.
So I'll be out of town.
All right.
Have fun.
I have a question to ask you, so
Okay.
I'll ask you a little bit later. Before you leave, I hope. Okay, great, thanks very much.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, all right. And then Dan Ingold is here also.
Come next,
Yeah.
Dan after Dan. So 2 things I want to talk about tonight real quick. We'll start with the generator quotes, and this is a generator for the Guilford Central School. We have funding that was set aside, $52,000. I have bad news, good news. The bad news is from the quotes, they're typically in the $77,000 to $92,000 range. In fact, one quote went at $600 even to quote. The generator companies are very busy right now, and the prices have skyrocketed. So that's the bad news. The good news is I've been in discussions with Green Mountain Power, and there are two opportunities that are coming up within the next couple of months, but will follow on for a couple of years. One is Green Mountain Power has grants that they've gotten to create resiliency zones. So I don't know if everyone knows, but they're doing several, and one in Brattleboro is at the trailer park, where they're doing a big battery energy storage system. So they're doing 3 a year, and we've been put on for the next year. So to do a resiliency zone. And what we're thinking of doing is with the town offices, which has a backup generator, the school, which has no backup generator, and the town garage, which has a backup generator, actually creating a microgrid. So if the power goes out, the 3 facilities would remain in power and act as their own grid. And basically we would stagger the generators so that depending on what the power needs are, only 1 or maybe 2 would be running, not all 3. So we'll have very efficient run with that. And the other thing is we'd be putting in a battery energy storage system at the school. So a lot of times we won't even need the generator, we'll be running off of battery storage. So we've been put in the queue for that for Green Mountain Power. The other thing is the Department of Energy has a program for rural communities for something similar. And there's a pre-application due on July 15th. And I'd like your consensus to apply for it. They're looking at it for up to 100 communities, rural communities with less than 10,000 people each, to do between $500,000 and $5 million worth of grant work. And this does not have share components. This is fully funded from the federal government. So I'd like to apply for that. We're probably talking a project with all this, and really doing it right. It'd probably be a $500,000 project to really do it right. But to do it and not impact the taxpayers of Guilford, and show this resiliency, and this would be something they would want to be able to replicate in other places. So, and Green Mountain Power would like to be a partner with us if we go into that. So if I have that consensus, I'll put that pre-application, I'll show you what I'm doing, but I've done, as you know, lots of grants for the town over the years. I'm very comfortable working with the federal government, so I'd like to put that in.
Yeah, I think that we can vote, probably we can consider voting for you to make the application. You're telling us right now that there would be no cost to the town if a grant did come our way. There would be no residual cost.
There's no 10% or 50%. Because it's rural communities, they're looking at no cost sharing.
Okay.
And that's actually written in their statement for this.
Yeah.
Dan, is there a deadline for this?
So the pre-application is due mid-July. If we make the pre-application, then I have to have everything in, we have to have everything in by October. And then you go into negotiation for, how I'm finally going to look at what the funding is that's going to happen. And we'd be looking at this time next year, basically having the funding in place if this is going forward.
Okay, and so you're suggesting then that if we do the pre-application now, that we would know by October 1st whether or not this would be something we might be entering into?
Yeah, we probably know in August whether we met the criteria.
A quick return.
Yeah.
Because then we have to do the application by October.
That's right, and they're looking to do, like I said, 100 towns. I think we have a good opportunity in what we're trying to do here that fits within their program.
So do you need a motion from the select board to do this?
I think so. I think I should just.
Yeah, because I'm doing it for the town, I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
It's a new thing. It doesn't have any budget implications for us, but still, it's a good thing for us to just follow along and that we're following the progress here. So I'd like to make that motion just on behalf of Dan and that we at least investigate this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
So if you need a formal title, it's the pre-application for what's called the Energy Improvement in Rural or Remote Areas. And it's through the Department of Energy.
Okay,
That's excellent.
try it again. Energy, say it again.
Okay,
Maybe we can just look at it here. Frank.
Oh, sure. Great.
that's the pre-application
Could you say it out loud? Say it out loud so the rest
Oh,
of us
sure,
can do it too.
yeah. It's called the Energy Improvement in Rural or Remote Areas.
Thank you.
and
It's in Department of Energy.
Department of Energy, and it's only for communities of 10,000 or less, of which we fit.
Excellent.
Definitely qualified.
All right, and actually you can keep that, I've got other copies.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
So that's where I am with,
Julie Hamilton, but
Okay.
Mary is in the waiting room.
Yeah, okay. She just left a message. I saw a chat there. You might want to check it. Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion here for consensus here on the select board? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, passes. All right.
okay, the second thing, I know it's cell phone, but it's actually satellite phone. Just so everyone is aware, back in 2018, we actually have a grant that used for buying 4 satellite phones for the town. So Danny has one, the EMD has one, the fire chief has one, the assistant fire chief has one. And this is an idea that if push comes to shove because of a weather event, like March 15th, what we saw. I'm in Green River. We had no power, no landline. If you go down to Coleraine, the cell towers in Coleraine, they had no power. So even the cell phones were out down there. So we do have a satellite phone system, and each of us, Karen, we have them available for us. But with that, we actually have a yearly plan that we pay for that. It's about $75 a month per phone, and that gives us rollover minutes, and we do have substantial rollover minutes at this point. So I just, as I took over EMD and took over for Peter's responsibility for this, looked at different programs, whether we could do a prepaid and whatnot. This is the lowest cost, best program, and we should stick with it because our rollover minutes stick with us. This program is only 10 minutes per month, but we have between 600 and 800 rollover minutes so far. So if we really are in trouble for a week, we would be able to use these sat phones. So what I have for that quote, and it actually came in a couple months ago, and I'll talk with Erica and I'll get it on next select board's warrant.
That's good, thank you.
So you have it. So, but anyhow, I've done the research. Let's stick with the program we have. You know, better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Absolutely. That's good.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. All right, let's see. So,
We have some of those.
all right, so then we'll move on to the next item in the updates and reports, and this is a big one for us all here in the community. So I'd like to just talk for a moment, please, and then we'll talk with Lisa Barry, the assessor for the town.
Can we just, before we move on to that, do we need to approve the phone contract or?
He's going to bring it at our next meeting.
Okay, got it.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much for that. So this next issue of the townwide appraisal, I'll just say a couple of things, just so we're, it's coming from the select board chair. This is not coming from the select board. We didn't have an open meeting about this or anything. This is just information that anybody could gather. But the fact is that the Guilford, over time, because of the increases in properties around the state of Vermont, property assessments, property evaluations, every town is given what's called a CLA. And that is used as a way to calculate taxes, both municipal and education taxes. There's a law in the state of Vermont that if the community CLA drops below 85%, meaning that if the list that we have appraises homes generally at less than 85% of their statistical value, then that town is required by law to do an appraisal. We have chosen to do a statistical appraisal. As many towns across Vermont will be doing appraisals right now. We happen to be one, that we've got ours it's done now, and it's quite shocking to a lot of us. And I think that, I think there are a couple of things that we all need to understand, apart from the steps that can be taken for us all to understand better what's going on. Again, I'll say that this is happening across Vermont. So we can look at other communities and learn from them about how they're handling it if we need to. We have a lot of assistance here in making various adjustments, in sort of processing all this. The important thing I think for us to understand is this is not an immediate indication that taxes are going to go up. I think it's very clear to say, we need to say that very clearly. The budget for the municipal budget for the town of Guilford, I'm going to backtrack here. We're not certain that taxes are going to go up. I should say that. We know that from the municipal aspect of things, they will not go up because the rate, the budget has been set by the town. We all approved an amount of money to be raised from the town in order for us to do the town's business. So that we're not going to raise any more money than we were supposed to. So that means that from the municipal point of view, generally, largely, most people's tax rates will go down. That's what we anticipate to be the case. When it comes to the education side of things, and I'll let Lisa explain a little bit more about this, but the thing is, I think that it's not an immediate, we don't all need to worry that immediately all of our taxes are going to go up through the roof. That's not going to happen. We have a couple of different estimations that we're looking at, and it seems as if we don't know everything. We don't have information yet to calculate everything yet, but it seems like the tax rates, individual taxes, if they go up, they're not going to go up significantly. That's the best we can say right now. Lisa, nice to have you here.
Thank you. I've had a very busy day. So yes, I'm assuming that just about everybody's received their change of appraisal. And they've been, if you have land only, it's not been a lot, but anybody with any kind of improvements on their land, it's probably been 35 to about 48% depending. So people are freaking out, oh my gosh, my taxes are going up 45%, the town of Guilford is trying to take all my money. So that is not the case. As Zahn explained, during the town meeting in March, it was voted, the budget was voted on. And now the town is not trying to gain any more money than was already voted on in March. So if our grand list, which is the total of all the properties in the town, goes up, let's just say 42%, then that would bring, if that was the average, then that would bring down the tax rate about 42% because we're trying to raise the same amount of money. Those are just example numbers. I don't know the numbers yet because there's a lot to be done between now and when the tax rate is set. A lot of work. So that is the municipal taxes. As far as the education taxes go, we don't have as much control, but I've been talking with people at the state on Friday and today and gone through some numbers, and it does look like because our CLA, we anticipate, again, the goal is to go up to 100 or a little bit above 100%, and that, and if we are there, then the tax rate for the education tax for the state will be lower, as low as it's probably been in a long, long time. We're kind of guesstimating right now that a house that was valued around $200,000 in last year would probably end up with about $23 more in education taxes than if we did not do the reappraisal at all. So it's not a lot, and so we have to remember that that education, the tax rate has gone down. There is a higher per pupil spending this year by $2,000 is what I'm told. But the rate is going down because a lot of the towns are doing reappraisals, which brings all of the grand lists up to bring the value down, or the tax rate down. So why did we do this? As Don said, if the CLA gets below 85%, and we were at 81.3%, then that's what triggered this. We did a statistical so we could get it done more efficiently and more quickly. We did a full reappraisal in 2017, and through a study, we determined that not all that many changes were made, so the state agreed a statistical was appropriate. That enabled us to do it all by computer. So there were sales studies, there are new tables, new cost tables, Marshall and Swift cost tables, which were entered into our valuation program, and things with the market were considered. We did hire a company to do the work, and they went through every single property to make sure that everything looked like it was in line. So again, we're not expecting municipal taxes to go up. For some people it will, most people it won't. And again, if you've done something to your property, it's gonna go up because that's the nature of it. And education taxes, we don't expect a big change either. But what can you do if you have questions or are worried about this? You can reach out to me. I've been emailing and talking to people on the phone all day long. Also, we have informal grievances where we have a representative from the reappraisal company who is going to be here all day Wednesday. That one's pretty full. We also have him coming in on Saturday. There are still spaces then. We have him coming in next Monday, which has a lot of openings. If necessary, I will open next Wednesday as well. I'm just kind of I don't want to have him coming in for just a few appointments here or there. So if next Monday, if Saturday and Monday get full, we'll open it next Wednesday as well. And you can talk with him. We've got 20-minute appointments. And if everything is settled with that, then great. If you still feel the need to come in front of the listers to grieve your valuation after that, then that will be Thursday afternoon. And we do require for the Thursday the 22nd, not this Thursday. Right? Erica's looking at me funny.
It is Thursday the 22nd.
Erica's giving me the hairy eyeball over there. Thursday the 22nd, and we do require before grievances start, we require information in writing. So not just I want to grieve, but why? What do you think is the problem?
And those letters of grievance requests should be sent to?
They can be sent in mail or by email. If you send them by mail, just make sure you write to the listers on the envelope. And if you send them by email, the email is listers@guilfordvt.gov. My voicemail, I forgot to change, it still says .net, but that gets here too.
If you experience a lot of grievances, will you extend the deadline?
No, the deadline will not be, there will be more grievances after the Thursday 3 to 6, but we won't extend anything. So,
So everyone that wants to be heard can?
yes,
Like there'll be time?
yes.
Okay.
Just like with the informals, I added already
Right.
a number of hours today. I added a full day plus another half a day.
So just so we're all clear, there's a two-step process here for the community in doing this grieving process. The first step is to, the very first step is if you need to feel the need to contact Lisa, she's there. But the first step really is this informal process. We call it the first step process, where you would make an appointment to come here and talk to a professional for 20 minutes about your situation, and may not have answers right then, but there's a chance for you to grieve. And if that doesn't come to a good resolution, then there's the opportunity to grieve at a public meeting on June the 22nd.
Right, and I do want to add, for those who are going to reach out to me, I work at a different job on Tuesdays. I won't be calling anybody back on Tuesday.
Okay, on the town website, it says the grievance process will start on June 14th with informal grievances. Call the town clerk with the number to set up a 20-minute appointment. So is the town clerk also making?
Poor Danielle has been manning the phones probably like a mad woman all day today. I've been doing the same at home, but yeah. Non-stop phone ringing. And of course, being that we have one phone line, a lot of people can't get through until later.
All right, this is the information, I think, that you finished up there, Lisa?
I am
Yeah,
finished.
okay, good. Since the select board's not taking any action related to this, it's not normal for us to open up the conversation in a public way to take considerations and questions. However, this is a heated, intense moment. So I was thinking that if we could, if you could think, if you had a question that was like on your emotional scale was at 7 or higher, 7 to 10, and you'd like to bring it up here, we could hear the question and perhaps provide an answer. But I think that what you'll find most is helpful is looking at the website. There are steps for every single person in Guilford to be able to take. If you understand that this is a process that's happening all across the state, this is not happening in Guilford. The select board is not doing this to anyone. This is required by state law. We are simply offering the facilitation of this process. And then, what does CLA mean? There's a question.
Oh, common level of appraisal, also on the town website. The common level of appraisal is it was the
You want me to say
basis.
It's what percentage of the market value we are, overall, our town is assessed at. So we were about 80% of what we should be, is approximately it.
We all see, in this community and in every community around, we see housing prices just going through the roof. And this is one of the effects of that.
Can I add one quick thing?
Yes.
One thing when you are being all stressed about your value and everything is think about this. If I were to put my house, my property on the market with today's real estate market, could I sell it? Would I sell it for this value? Okay, that's what we're going for. We're going for, if you were to list it with a realtor, and I know most people are like, but I don't want to sell my house. That's not the point. If you were to put it on the market today, would you sell it at the value that you were given in that letter? Okay, so please think about that before.
And if not, that's the process you go through. And when the grievances are heard, they will talk about things like comps and all the kinds of things that are used to evaluate properties, and that becomes part of the process as we go forward. Okay, folks, thank you all very much. And we're all here to try to make this go well. We're not the only community in Vermont that's going through this right now. And I just spoke with someone today in Burlington who said that they went through it recently, and the town really it was really very intense for the community. Things, it levels out. I think we need to wait and see what, we'll learn more about the tax rates as we go along, and we will definitely keep people apprised to the best of our abilities on our website and so forth like that. So.
That's my question, and might
Yes.
calm the waters. Do you have a general time frame of when we might know the new tax rates?
Kind of.
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
Kind of. So basically, there are all these things that have to happen. Number one, we send out the letters. Number two, we've got 14 days before we can have grievances. After grievances, we've got a little bit of time to go through the grievances and come up with any new values as appropriate. After that, we can go and finalize the grand list. After the grand list is finalized, we take a bunch of pieces, including information from the grand list, information from the treasurer, information from the state, and we put all of those together to come up with a suggested tax rate, municipal tax rate. And then it is submitted to the select board, who will then vote on it. And I think we talked about the date, I don't remember, when we had our meeting, our staff meeting the other day, we talked about it, like when it's gonna be around mid-July.
Okay.
Okay, but there are all these
that helps
things.
me understand
yeah.
why the grievances are so quick as well.
Yes.
Because that plays into the
Because we need to get this done,
Yeah.
because the sooner we get the tax rate set, the sooner the tax bills can go out, the sooner the people have the tax bills to prepare, and more lead time they have, because all tax bills are due October 15th. So people need lead time to be able to plan life, to be able to pay their tax bills.
Yeah, okay. Well, that
and-
time frame helps.
Yep, and then as far as the education tax rate, as soon as the grand list is finalized, we submit it to the state. The state will then determine what our new CLA is. And once they have our new CLA, then they can tell us what the education tax rate will be.
Okay.
Okay, so there are like 1,000 pieces that are being juggled right now to try to get it all into one box.
Sure.
And the goal for Guilford is to get our CLA as close to 100 as possible, so that when
Well,
we see.
Or above, or slightly
Yeah,
above, yeah.
Yeah, above, 100 or above, a little
Yeah.
bit, yeah. And the reason for that is because as we see the numbers coming toward us, then we can all begin to estimate. We can all learn how to estimate what our tax liability is gonna be, because it's about that number. When you take the current number and divide it by 81.3, you get a very different tax liability. And so we just don't know what all that is yet. We just don't have the information. None of us is in a good space right now.
No,
for
that helps to
information.
understand them, the big
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah, good.
So Lisa, just one more question. So is the basis for a grievance that a property owner believes that the figure that they were given is not the market value of their house? Is that the basis for the grievance?
Yes.
So not like I'm poor, I can't afford this.
Yes.
It's like, this seems like an unrealistic assessment of the value of my home.
That is correct, because despite the fact that your value does greatly affect your taxes, taxes are not what the lister's department is about, okay? We are about valuation, and that is our responsibility. So the only grievance, we don't grieve based on taxes, especially not based on what taxes might be. We only can hear grievances on market value.
Okay.
I will also.
And also again, like if you feel that we've done something wrong with your home, you know, we put your home as twice the size that it was or something like that, then that's obviously worth grieving.
Some of the feedback that I've gotten in just the last couple of days is that people are concerned about how this is even happening at all at the state level. And so there's an opportunity for all of us here in the state to begin to learn about how this process works. I didn't know about it. I'm learning very quickly a lot about all of this. And I think that there's an opportunity for every one of us, if we feel so moved, to get engaged in the statewide process that is leading to not only the reappraisals of our properties, but the forces that are causing that reappraisal to have to happen in Vermont as property values rise across the state. It's a big question that I know the legislature is very concerned about in lots of ways. So it's an opportunity for all of us to get a little bit more deeply engaged in how it is we live our lives right here in Guilford. So just saying that. All right.
I have one more
Yes,
question.
Tara.
Lisa, do you feel that because it was computer generated, that the percentages may have been different if they were in person, which would take a lot of time, I understand?
No, because each property was looked at individually.
Okay.
Because it would be different if we just went through and just, you know, it was just plain computer generated. But we started out with the computer generation as in putting all the Marshall and Swift new tables in and the new valuations, so that was the first thing. Then there was a study done with land sales, you know, all the land sales that have been happening in the last couple of years. We can't go back very far with sales because older sales are worthless right now, because only the newest sales are of value, because everything has been just on this steep uphill as far as values go. But we did that to determine land values, and then the assessment company went through every property and used the sketch, because every property has a sketch, a list of, you know, what kind of spaces there are, how many bathrooms, how many kitchens, how many everything. So they were looking through each property to determine, does that seem appropriate, and working with it to adjust it to make it seem appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Lisa, there's a question online. What happens if the national level of property assessments goes down in the next while?
Then if that happens and everything tanks, then we do it again and go the other way. Our goal is to be as close to market value as we can. So that's, you know, so I don't see anything changing drastically in the near future, but if 3 years out that happens, if 5 years out that happens, we do it again.
And is Guilford required to do an appraisal every so often, every like 10 years or anything like that?
It's every 10 years, and
Or
sooner if you're a CLA or COD, which is common coefficient of dispersion, and I don't want to get into describing coefficient of dispersion, please. But if your numbers get too out of whack, then the state says you have to do it.
Okay.
So it's that or the time.
All right, okay. Thank you very much, folks. All right, thanks very much, folks. We'll move on in the agenda at this point. But just know that we're here and there's plenty of opportunity, we hope. There's enough opportunity for people to register their grievances and to continue this process going forward. All right, thank you. Now we'll move on to old business. This is the section of the agenda in which we are looking at topics that we have already, the select board has seen it prior in one fashion or another. And the first item on tonight is the issue of Potash Drive. And I'll just speak for a couple of minutes about that, and then we have an action that we can consider here at the select board. For those of you who haven't been engaged in the process, I won't explain everything because what we're dealing with is Potash Drive, which is off of Sweet Pond Road, began a process apparently in around 2017 or 2018 for discontinuation of the road so that it would no longer be a public road. It was inadvertently, incorrectly assumed that the road was private. In fact, the process was never properly finished by statute. So that was 5 years ago or more. So we are now in the process of looking at that question, and that question came to us because we received a request for a driveway permit from a next door neighbor who wants to use Potash Drive in order to have a driveway go off that road. So there are a number of issues here. I'm going to describe two this evening, and one of which is that the select board can consider some action. The first issue is, and to the best of our understanding, we're working closely with the town's attorneys on this because we want to get this right this time. We have to be very careful that the interests of Guilford are taken care of. And that we don't make a mistake and mix things up like happened a few years back. So what we have learned in the process is that Potash Road is entirely within a single property. So, and there's a request it's in the property owned by Paul and Christina Bellador, and there's a request from them that we reopen that discontinuance process that was not completed 5 years ago. We have a written request from them, and that's that there's a very, very clearly delineated set of steps that any select board needs to follow in order to discontinue a road from being a public road. If the select board votes to begin that process, we will definitely follow that process very carefully to make sure, because it's in Guilford's best interests, okay? So I will explain the other situation, although it's the other issue that's related to this, although it doesn't impinge in exactly the same way. And we'll come back to this first issue. The second issue is there are three parties involved in the discussion about whether or not there could be a driveway permit awarded to go off of Potash Road into a property that's next door to the Belladors, owned by the Ewens. The Ewens have come to the town to ask us to obviously grant that permit. It would be a simpler thing for us to do if Potash Road, if the Ewen property went to the road, which it does not do.
I have to stop you there.
It does not do that.
It does go to the road.
No, it does not, as far as we understand.
Well, we need clarity on that, further clarity, because right now.
I'm just saying that.
Public road does have a statute of width, and that width.
That's different than the road itself.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
We just gotta make sure we don't.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Say this totally incorrectly.
I'm avoiding, I want to make sure I don't say it incorrectly, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's correct that every road has a width of so many rods and it has a right of way.
That's correct.
Yes, that's correct. we're not certain at this point, but and that's what Guilford needs to be very careful about because of Guilford's interests here. We need to be very clear where that line is and whether or not the stone wall that exists between the two properties that forms the property, that is the property line, whether it's inside the right of way. We're determining that, and we need to have that discussion. The various parties, legal teams need to have that discussion and work it out. We believe, Guilford believes, and we've been stating for the longest time during this process, we've been saying that we believe this is an issue that ultimately will be an issue for the property owners themselves to discern. And that there may not be an interest in the part of the town of Guilford. That's what we're trying to discern right now. That's why we have to be so very careful. So we want to have a very complete and sure-footed conversation so to make sure that everyone's interests are best represented and understood here. So that's the stance of the second issue, which has to do with the driveway permit. We're not in a position tonight to ready for that. We're not able to do that at this point, simply because we don't understand here at the select board well enough what the situation is from the property lines and so forth. So we're still working on that. We will come to that. The first issue, let's go back to that. The first issue is that we, as a select board, can make a motion to open again or renew or start the process that was incorrectly followed 5 years ago, to discontinue, at the request of the Brattleboro, to discontinue the road. Again, it's a process that will take us some time to go through. Requires a public hearing, requires letting abutters and interested parties know about the situation, and there's a number of steps that we'll be following. So I would like to make a motion that the select board move to open that process again.
I would second.
Okay. Is there a second? Thank you, Rusty. Is there any further discussion here at the select board?
Yeah, I wasn't involved when this happened in 2017. 18, but I want to know if past landowners had a right of way to that road, like the Burkowskis. I wouldn't want anyone that had a right of way to a road to not be able to have that.
Yeah, and that's exactly, I think, what we're trying to discern. I'm not sure that they, I'm not sure that they had, I don't know.
I think we can check in land documents and
certainly
deeds.
our lawyers are looking at every possible deed and every possible property assessment or whatever related to the, Erica has sent them numerous documents.
So I don't know how we can make a motion to go through with granting the private road or the public road to be a private road when we don't have all the details from the attorneys.
They're two separate issues.
Okay.
All right, they were in my mind all one thing at one point, but it has become clear that they need to be two separate issues because the road, and yes, there are interests nearby, but because the road is wholly placed inside a single property.
Okay, you did say that. So
Yes.
you said that it is entirely within a single property. It's entirely within Bellagor's property.
Correct.
And then it should be based on how many feet the Ewan's property is?
It's based on the right-of-way, whether or not they have, what the level of interest is. It's very complicated, but yeah, the level of interest is. Right now, on most of the surveys, the property looks as if it's divided on a stone wall. The question is whether or not that stone wall is inside the right-of-way. And then even if it is inside the right-of-way, does the town of Guilford have the right to say to a property owner that the town determines we're going to give a driveway permit and demand that a private, who owns part of the land has to give up that part of the stone wall, in other words.
Okay.
if there's a conversation between them.
And then there was some hopes of mediation and negotiation
Right.
amongst the property owners.
Right. I think what Guilford's trying to figure out here is that Guilford's interest is whether or not we can actually, supply the driveway permit. That's our main interest.
So that's one.
That's one. It's not in our interest to engage with these, with the private landowners. It's not in Guilford's interest to mediate for them. That's a process they could choose to do with either through legal terms or among themselves or with mediation. But Guilford doesn't need to be part of that discussion. At least that's what we understand now. We may find out something a little bit different here.
Okay.
We're still learning. So that second issue is separate.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for clarification.
So I have a
very
question about the motion that we're making, the motion that we're entertaining.
Considering, yes.
Yeah, oh, thank you, that's a lower standard. Okay, excuse the levity, it's not funny. But what we're voting on, what we're considering is reopening the process of making that a private road. And in opening up the process, all of those steps that you described, we would be voting on agreeing to go through the proper steps, correct?
Yes.
So tonight, this vote is not about, the town is voting to have Potash Road be Potash Drive.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct. We're not-
And we will, if we vote on this, we commit to the correct process of doing this.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Yeah.
Okay?
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's different from the first thing I thought.
Yeah, well, it's also different from what we talked about 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah, so, all
I have
right.
a question.
Yes.
How do we confirm that the road is fully, and the right of way on the builder's
I think
property?
that what I understand from today, in speaking with our attorney, is that there needs to be an understanding among all parties about the distance. And I'm not sure that all the parties understand what the distance of the road is. It needs to be verified and measured
And that would be part of
that would be
this
part of this
process.
determination, yeah. All of this, believe it or not, is incredibly clearly laid out in statute. It's just a matter of following it step by step and getting everything kind of clearly understood. And that's what we're aiming to do here. We are doing this for Guilford because of Guilford's interest here.
And so this would involve hiring a surveyor to determine, or just looking at records?
I think it's probably the records approach. We'll
Okay.
be looking at records and in the process of doing all this, we'll learn what we need to learn, and that's part of it. We're getting prepped now on part of that process, and we'll learn what we need to learn to go forward.
And the Ewens want to go up a driveway, which is still a public road.
And totally.
And then they want to go through a stone wall to make themselves a driveway.
Correct. A stone wall, which is, as we understand it, which is currently owned by 2 property owners.
Both of them.
Yes.
Okay.
The Belligors and the Ewens have
And then
interest in
the
this stone wall.
Ewens have the land on the other side of that stone wall.
Correct.
And they'd like to get to it.
Yes.
Okay.
In that particular way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's certainly within their right to request a driveway permit at this point, because technically the road, although it's been assumed for the last 5 years that the road is private, it is technically.
4 years.
Thank you for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a public road for the last while. All right, is there anything else here? Yeah, thank you very much. All right, I see Jason Heron's hand.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, thank you.
I got my video going, but it doesn't seem to be working. You said in your statement that we are talking with our attorneys, but I know the select board hasn't discussed any of this. They haven't voted to contact the town's lawyer. It seems like the select board themselves don't know anything about this situation because you've been explaining it to them this entire time. So I'm wondering, it sounds to me like you are the only one that contacted the town's lawyer. You're the only one who has talked with the town's lawyer, and you are now trying to explain what the town lawyer has said to you, to the other select board members. Is that the truth?
It's in part, it's true that I have spoken with the town's attorney, but it's not true that
Who authorized you to do that? The select board needs to authorize you to do that.
Jason, I'll talk about that a little bit later. I don't think you're correct about that. So I think that we have right to speak with the lawyer about issues that come before.
You're absolutely right when you say we. You don't have right. We as the select board does have the right.
I do have right. I do have right, Jason. I do have right, and so does Erica. Yeah.
It's unfortunate that the select board members don't know anything about this, that you're explaining to them in an open meeting when they should have had right to know every aspect of this. They should be talking to the lawyers themselves. They should have a full understanding. This should be in an open meeting.
Jason, we are in an open meeting right now, and we are talking about this.
You are the only one. You are the only one who's telling us what the select board's lawyer said, not the select board. Just you, the chairman. None of the other select board members have talked to this lawyer other than you. There's no written statement. You're basically trying to tell the rest of the town what this lawyer is saying to us, but yet you are still trying to explain it to our own select board members. Miss Cheney is a new member of this board, and she apparently doesn't know any of this that's going on, and you are just now having to explain it to her. That's not an open meeting.
This is when we discuss it, Jason. This is what, because we can't.
No, Tara, you were not involved with this. Zon Estes was involved with this. You should have been involved with the lawyer.
Jason, no, I'm sorry. We'll stop there. I was not involved in 2017. I was not involved. 2018. Thank you. Thank you. I was not involved before, so thank you very much. And I will speak to that a little bit later in the agenda about a clarification about our relationship with the town's attorneys. So, and it's true, it's absolutely true, folks, that by the rigors of open meeting law, the times that we can meet together to talk about things are at town meetings, are at select board meetings. And sometimes the issues that come up at select board meetings are a little dicey, and maybe, I know that when I first got on the select board, I was really quite frustrated that I didn't have any background knowledge of what was going on. But I couldn't get any background knowledge without having an open public meeting. So I had to learn how to do that kind of thinking, the meeting thinking necessary in this setting. And that's what we're doing right now. And so
we have training. You have a training line item. That's the only item that's been under budget for years now is your training.
I'm sorry, Jason. Thank you. We'll move ahead. So we have a motion on the floor at this point to begin the process here of per the Bellagor's request. It's been seconded and thirded.
I just have a question with that.
Oh yes, thank you.
How can we make a motion to move forward on doing this next step when we haven't resolved the first step, which is really impacting me at this point?
Yeah, I think I understand.
And to start moving the next, this could change the landscape of this whole discussion.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's not being fair to us.
Well, it maybe isn't being fair to you, but remember in 2018, there was a process that was
September 16th, 2017. Paul, that is the wrong date. The select board doesn't have the right date on their meeting minutes.
Okay, so
and the point is, please correct that because he keeps saying that, and that's not true.
The point here is that there was we're attempting to do an older. We're attempting to address an issue that came before the select board a few years before this. So it just makes sense to us. The process takes a while for us to do this process. We're not going to have a special meeting tomorrow or anything to do this. We'll go through the process.
No, I understand. I appreciate that time.
And we have to have a public hearing, which has to be warned. I think it's by 2 weeks or something like that. So there's a process here that we'll be going through, and we will be hearing from anyone in the community who wants to speak about this issue. So, yeah. All right, Tammy, I see your hand.
Yes, I was wondering if it would be possible to clarify when the select board made the decision. Can you guys post on the website the answer to the question as far as when the decision was made to tell the Belagores that it was no longer going to be considered a town road by the town of Guilford, that it was going to be a private road, because that date seems to be confusing to everybody.
Yes, thank you. It probably will be in tonight's minutes. So you'll be able to look up at the minutes of tonight's meeting and probably see. We'll make sure that it's in there.
Okay,
Thank you.
and then the next question I had was, with looking into it, who is it that's looking into it? Is it the select board that's looking into it? Who is it who's going to be trying to make the decision? What you guys are voting on now, you were talking about going to the next step. What is the next step and who's doing that?
If I understand your question correctly, Tammy, I will try to explain as I understand it. There's a process that's very clearly delineated by statute about how to discontinue a public highway. If you want to look it up, it's 19 VSA section 701. It's right, anybody can look it up.
Questioning who does that? Do you guys, the select board?
The select board has to do it all. And if wherever we run into a problem, like a legal issue or something that I don't have this memorized, obviously, but wherever we run into a problem or anything, we would be consulting with our town's attorney to make sure that we're acting in Guilford's best interests.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tammy and everybody, I'm the only one here who was serving on the select board when this happened. It started out, I was new on the select board, and I was taking a ride with Dan Zambruski around town, which is one of the pleasures of being a select board member. And Dan and I stopped at Potash Road, and Dan, you correct me if I'm wrong. There was an issue with, was it a private road sign or a note? I mean, we stepped up, and do you have a recollection of this?
I think at the time it was, they wanted a dead end road on it.
Right.
Is what they wanted. And then when that board meeting, they decided the Belagores were gonna do their own maintenance on it. They wanted the Potash Road changed to Potash Drive.
That's right. And at the time, I was very new on the select board. I relied on the knowledge of people who had been involved longer than I, but I didn't go looking at the state statute to see whether we had done what we should have done. And so there it was, an innocent error of ignorance on my part, and also not due diligence on the part of our town administrator. There was no nefarious intent, but I see the harm and the discord that caused, and I feel some sense of responsibility for trying to make bad into better. And this seems like, even though it's arduous, the only way that as a town, I can see for us to go forward and open up the process. So, I think when you make a mistake, it's important to claim it. And I was one of those people who was involved in that error, and nobody else on the select board was.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Okay, so we have a motion before us to enter into this process. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
All right, we have one abstention. All right, thank you, duly noted. Okay, folks, thank you very kindly for that also rather intense conversation. Now we will move on to something a little bit different. Still old business. This is the select board goals and that we have for the year, and I will turn to Miranda and to Tara for this, the subcommittee.
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to read the introduction that Tara and I wrote. I mean, our select board goals are very similar to our old select board goals, but there was a slight change in emphasis, which I mentioned in the introduction. So each year, the Guilford Select Board sets short and longer-term goals in addition to our ongoing responsibilities. From these goals, we create a work plan as a framework to guide our actions. During the 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic, Guilford residents responded with creativity and generosity. Supporting our most vulnerable community members became one of the Select Board's highest priorities. Unfortunately, the community is still struggling with the aftermath of the pandemic, physically, psychologically, and financially. In addition, climate emergencies, we wrote this during the air emergency. Climate emergencies continue to put our community at risk. While the Select Board has aspirational goals, our authority comes solely from state statute. The Select Board is at the center of Vermont's local government. This is right out of the statute. It is the body that has general supervision and control over the affairs of the town, 24 VSA 872. The Select Board performs 3 functions: legislative, enacts local ordinances, regulations, and policies; administrative, prepares and presents the budget, oversees all town expenditures, supervises personnel and controls town buildings and property; and third, quasi-judicial, determines private rights in such areas as laying out, discontinuing, and reclassifying highways and hearing appeals as the local board of health and as the local liquor control commission. And this is the foundation for our work. And that's the introduction. So Tara, do you want to?
Yes, so on May 3rd, the entire select board had a meeting to go over the visions and goals. And we discussed quite a few things in the different, there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you can see, I'm pretty sure on the website, our former goals are there.
From 2020.
Right, okay. Well, we've definitely adapted some new goals and visions. So I'm just gonna go through them. Bear with me because it's a big document that I have to scroll over. But for visions and goals, the first one is Guilford is a welcoming, inclusive, affordable, sustainable, and safe community. Our priorities are community connections and resilience. And the actions that we will take are the select board encourages collaboration. Who's gonna be involved? Local organizations. And then we just have like notes and reference, like we're not gonna name all the organizations, but Guilford Cares, the fire department, etc. Mutual aid, oh no, that's the next one, sorry. So another action would be to follow up with inclusivity discussions. And then, mutual aid plan, road by road. Some of it got cut off. So that's part of safety, the mutual aid plan, and learning a road by road plan. Safety is traffic in Algiers, Guilford Center, Weatherhead Hollow, and then emergency, some of this got cut off, unfortunately. But it's not completely done. So we need to approve it and make it more legible. So also we want to create and energize community ties. The second vision and goal is the select board is curious, open, transparent, and communicates clearly. These are our visions and goals. We want to enhance communication with the community. We want to welcome public input using rules of procedure. We want to offer empathetic communication resources. We want to continually innovate and improve the select board and town communications to the public. And who's involved with that? The town administration, the town clerk, and the select board. We want to simplify language into lay terms whenever possible. And so some of the ways to do that is to provide fiscal transparency through updated reports, ongoing education, quarterly reports, and lay terms. And then we want to update all available information online. So the third vision and goal is the select board works closely with town commissions, committees, and departments. Likewise, the select board works closely with Guilford State Representative and Wyndham Regional Commission. Our priorities are to strengthen ties with select board members, continue to increase reporting at meetings. Our actions would be to develop a schedule, minutes and BCTV recordings, serve as documentation, select board members strengthen roles as liaisons. And edit suggestions would be communication with our state rep should be a goal for years to come. Strategic planning is a priority. We want to encourage broad participation through messaging, that got cut off, but through communication. And that's local, that's everybody. We want to inform people of progress. And then the last one is a priority, is to work directly with state representatives, the state rep, Sarah Coffey and the WRC, which
Wyndham Regional Commission.
Wyndham Regional Commission, build capacity to respond to funding. And then we want to facilitate collaboration. This was a really good one too, and it turned into a link to Sarah Coffey. It's blue. So we'll fix that. Do you remember what that was?
I think it was facilitate communication among different stakeholders.
Local communities.
Community stakeholders.
And we want to follow up regarding transportation issues with Sarah Coffey that we're facing in this town. The last goal, the select board implements and monitors the Guilford capital plan, continuing to update. That got cut off. The public?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
The public.
All right. Priorities, all other planned improvements. The actions would be to review the 2018 capital needs assessment and take action. We need to do a cost analysis for our current assessment. And that is the town administration and the select board there who will be involved in that.
Thank you. That's a lot. Thank you. A lot to read. A lot to keep in mind.
But once we get this straightened out, Tara was a lot better at Excel than I was. Things kept on appearing and disappearing. And once we get this into a slightly tighter form, then, tonight we'll be considering sort of the main frame of this, and then we can sort of facilitate the communication of this and then post it for the public.
We just really need to enlarge some cells because there's some sentences that aren't being completed.
Great.
And also get input on the small stuff or the action steps and who will take those action steps.
Yeah, responsible. All right, so are you suggesting a motion here that we accept the frame of this, the four larger goals, and then for tonight we'll do that?
Yeah.
All right, I will second that. We'll say that Brenda.
Sure. I move that we
All right.
accept the framework of the goals.
All right, I'll second it. All right, is there any discussion here? I see Jason's hand. Hi, Jason.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, select board members. Ms. Jeannie mentioned the capital improvement plan. I've asked for that plan the last 5 years of that, and our last town administrator said that plan doesn't exist. So I'm hoping that the select board will actually take care of that and make that plan something that they're supposed to do it every year. It's supposed to say what our capital needs are, how much it's going to cost, where it's going to come from. It's a detailed plan that hasn't been created in the last 5 years, and mentioning it in this, I think it's very important. We put $225,000 into that every year. We were not allowed to divide the question to ask that in the town meeting this year, and here we are talking about it again, and it doesn't exist. So I'm now that you're voting on this, that these are your goals. I'd like to know when we'll see the capital improvement plan that's supposed to be required annually by the select board that hasn't been done for the last 5 years.
Tonight, thanks, Jason. Tonight, we're voting on the overall frame and we'll build out the schedule and so forth as we go here. So I don't have a specific answer for you, but it's definitely part of our goals. So we'll stay on top of it. All right, is there any other comments here in the room? Thank you. All right, so I'll take a vote here. All in favor of going with the frame here of these 4 goals, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? All right. Thank you. All right, then we move right on to another issue that's part of our old business schedule. That's parking at the Green River Bridge, and we had the subcommittee of Michael and Rusty looking at that.
Well, we basically found that we were gonna leave it as is and use the parking regulations of the state, the town. If I can read them if you want me to, or?
I don't think if they exist and they're
Yes.
available for us to find, then I think we don't need to read them out loud. And if there are
We figured there was enough room on the roads and that we didn't need any special.
any special signage or anything like that?
No.
Okay, all right, so we need to communicate this. We probably should accept this report from you guys. And then we need to communicate this to the property owners who brought the question in the first place.
I would just make couple adds here, short. I spoke with Dan as well as Jared, just to get any further input they might have. Dan asked that we maintain 12 feet of clearance as we drive through the area.
I was over there a couple of weeks ago on a Thursday night, and there was quite a few people, and everybody was parked, so there was plenty of room.
Still,
And I was over there today, and I see they have a new sign up saying, park the right way, leave space for emergency vehicles and stuff, so.
and so is that sign on their property?
The sign that's, is on the other side of the covered bridge.
Oh, yes.
As you go around, it's right on one of the posts there.
I see.
Because the right-hand side, there's no parking at all.
Yeah.
And they got plenty of room. Everybody was, the little parking spot where they first pull off by the big rocks, and then there was cars downstream, and there was plenty of room.
Okay.
And Jared just added that cars should be parked in such a way that the emergency vehicles can turn around the 3 intersections at the triangle.
But there would be no signage to that effect. It would just be.
I don't think we're recommending that.
Okay, all right, okay. So we know that that's a consideration from both the town and from the town garage, town
Fire chief.
foreman and the fire chief.
And the people who are running the inn don't have plans to have larger capacity events there than could be absorbed with the current parking? Or that was
There
beyond?
used to be a spot out behind the church where they could park. The church on the hill.
I know that when I spoke with him, he said that they were talking to at least one other property owner in the neighborhood about possible parking. So they're doing some looking. So
Okay.
I think we need to. So we'll take it as a motion to accept this. Let's do it this way. I will move to accept this recommendation from the subcommittee. Is there a second for that?
I will.
Thanks, Brenda. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, Dan, here we go with your next, with the ditching repair.
I think Erica's got a paper for you guys to look at. We had 3 bidders on stone line ditching. One road is Cemetery Hill. Another road is Bukowski Road. Another road is Campbell Road, and then there's a segment on Sweets Pond Road. And we had 3 bidders. The highest bidder was from Massachusetts. They were over $222,000.
Oh.
The next bidder was $87,128, and then the lowest bidder was $59,890, and that was through MT3. And one of the reasons why I wanted this tabled last time, because I wanted Wyndham Regional to look at these, and they said that the lowest one is right on the money.
Okay.
So, and out of that full grant, that amount of money there, we have a $45,000 grant. So our cut will be like, I think it's gonna be like $10,000-12,000, so. And one of the reasons why I'm asking to put these out to bid now, it just takes too much time away from us for doing our regular routine maintenance on the roads. I mean, we've tried to done this in the past, and it takes us all summer to do these projects, and we get behind on things, so.
So you're recommending the
I'm recommending the
MT3?
lowest one,
Okay.
MT3.
All right.
Dan, I have a question.
Sure.
On this, it says for the two lower bidders, 4 segments, and then on the highest bidder, it says tree and stump removal. Is it all the same thing?
It is, there's trees that be cut, there's all new culverts, there's gonna be stone line ditching, there's gonna be grass line ditching to do.
So they all bid on the same thing?
They all bid on the
Okay.
same thing.
They're all looking at the same RFP, responding to the same
Everybody had
part.
the same RFP.
They didn't come back with a different scope. Okay. All right, so, Dan is recommending that we accept the lowest bid from MT3. I should probably say what that amount is. I'll move this just so we can. So I move that we accept the Dan's recommendation to extend a contract to MT3 for the amount of $59,890.
I will second.
For 4 segments of stone. Michael second.
This work has to be done before September 30th.
And why is that?
That's because that's when the grant runs out.
Okay, so it's grant related. Yeah, that's the
So as soon as I give them the word,
Okay.
we'll go look at the jobs and
All right.
they
And
can
it-
start anytime.
And so just so we're all clear here in Guilford, is the remainder part of your budget?
Of,
The-
the stone, where the money's coming from our stone line ditching, we have an account for that. I thought I had my piece of paper up here, but there's like 165,000 in that.
So
Account.
this is not new expenditures.
No,
that
it's, we
expect-
set this up this is all to do with the Clean Water Act. They want all these
Yes,
little things, they want to try to keep your streams and your
yeah,
little tributaries clean, so I mean, so way back, oh God, when they started this, I think the first segment we did was back in 2016, is when we put money away for it. And then the jobs that we've been doing and the reimbursements we've been getting, it goes back in that kitty to keep the kitty built back up.
all right, okay, thank you. So, okay, I think that if there's no further discussion here at the select board, then are we ready to vote? Okay, so all those in favor of accepting this bid?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, thank you. Okay, folks, now we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is old business. It's a conflict of interest clarification, and this is something that has come before the town before, and in this particular instance, I want to just describe a situation that we were facing. The town, we received which is completely any citizen's right, we received a public record request related to Guilford's conflict of interest statement. And Guilford has a conflict of interest statement. Every town in Vermont has to have a conflict of interest statement. Policy, thank you, a policy. So Guilford has such a policy. This public record request came with the request that, with a list, if I'm correct, Erica may need to correct me, but with a list of the expected public records that this citizen expected to see because of that citizen's read of the policy that we have. And it was quite an extensive list of conflict of interest statements that person expected to see. So, not being certain, we turned to VLCT and asked them if they would kindly read through our Guilford's conflict of interest policy. We've already let the citizen know, but I want to let the public know that VLCT read our policy, which was written under the advice and guidance, updated under the advice and guidance of VLCT a while back. And VLCT assures us that the only parties that are required to actually fill out the conflict of interest form, according to our policy, in line with Vermont statute, are the 5 members of the select board. So the interested party who submitted the public record request actually has a copy of all 5 of our conflict of interest statements at this point, and will be receiving no others because they're not required by our policy or by state statute. So so there are no other records that we are keeping that we would pass on to anybody in the interest of a public record request.
I have a question.
Yes.
You and Brenda are members of the select board. You were both on the ARPA committee
Yes.
with me. Neither one of you signed, you weren't required to sign a conflict of interest? Because I was the only one that signed it on the ARPA committee. Neither of you did.
We signed it as members of the select board, and that's.
You did?
Yes.
Not at our meeting. You
No,
must have done
no.
it at a different time.
Yes, we
Okay.
do that. There's a request at the March. It's one of the first things we do after the town meeting.
Because you didn't sign it at that.
No,
Yeah.
no, I just wanted to clarify that, and also neither one of us is a voting member of the ARPA committee.
Right.
I mean, we were there to support the process, which
Well, you made the
everybody-
final decisions though, on our recommendation.
Well, the select board did.
Yes.
Yeah, not Veranda and I.
No.
The select board did. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
Yes, I see Tammy's hand. Hi, Tammy.
Hi, so my question is, would it make sense to update our policy? Because I think in all honesty, it would make sense for all commissions, all committees, all the different groups that get put together. Why wouldn't we want to have that, a conflict of interest from everyone that participates?
Thank you, Tammy. I think what we'd say there is let's talk to VLCT and see what their recommendation is. The policy was done, I think, I'm gonna probably be wrong, but I think it was done in 2021. And so it was and it would have been done under the advisement of VLCT. So if they thought it was important for us to have all the commissions and committees, I think they would have recommended it at that time. But we'll follow up on that just to make sure.
Yeah, I was just thinking that if all of us, if our town is saying, hey, that's probably a good idea, probably everybody on each commission and committee should submit one of those. Do we have to have approval from anyone else? Why can't we as a town decide to update our policy to include all of these groups of people? We don't have their approval for it, do we? VLCT's approval to do that, do we?
I'm not sure. I don't know, and that's a question that we can ask about. I'm sure there's something about, because we are acting as the select board's acting in a responsible fashion for the community, and we have legislative and judicial responsibilities that none of the other commissions have. It may simply be essentially non-binding. I don't know. That's my first response, but we'll find out. I don't know the answer. We'll look it up and see what we do. I see Jason's hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, select board members. The 2018 conflict of interest policy that Guilford in section G, it defines what a public officer is. And it says a public officer means a person elected or statutorily appointed to perform executive, administrative, legislative, or quasi-judicial functions for the municipality. So it says clearly that it means that a person who is elected or statutorily appointed. So anyone that the select board has statutorily appointed is required to fill out these forms. So I'd like to know, and I'd like to see the written statement of the VLCT or the town's law firm that said they don't have to follow that definition.
Thank you. I think then you'd want to make a public record request. We can probably provide our interchange with VLCT that spoke to this issue.
Can we just say this is my public document request, or do I need to make this formally? And from last I heard that the town administrator wasn't authorized to communicate with me. Would she be allowed to communicate with me in this aspect?
Nice try there, Jason. She's not authorized to speak with you about a particular issue.
Are you suing us about that?
Yeah, one single issue, which you know very well is what the situation is. Nice try, didn't work. Yes, you can write to the town administrator and make a public record request. Any citizen in Guilford can do that. That's fine. We'll respond to it the best we can. Thank you.
Oh, I'd also like to offer an invitation to everybody who is here and everybody who is in the audience that a number of our commissions have vacancies. And they would really like interested and committed Guilfordites to volunteer. And so I'll be happy to share that information with anybody who wants to come forward and help out.
Erica, do we have a list on our website of the vacancies, like front and center? It is.
If you look at each of the commissions, you can see where there are
Okay.
vacancies.
And I'll make sure that the ones that I know about are updated.
Thank you all.
Still, you haven't answered my question. You know, the conflict of interest policy says a public officer means a person elected or statutorily appointed.
I'm sorry, Jason, I'm very sorry. I thought we did answer that at the very beginning of the talk, that we asked VLC to read the document, to read our policy and comment on it. And their legal team commented to us, which I think is the public record request you're going to be making, which states that, in fact, only the select board members need to sign this document. So it's their understanding from a legal perspective that the policy as it stands now requires the select board to sign, which we have all done now, and we will do going forward.
Why have this section about appointed officials?
Do we have an updated policy in 2021?
I just looked. No, it's from 2018.
Oh, okay.
So there may be a question for us to consider at this point. I don't know.
Well, maybe we should change the verbiage.
Maybe we want to change the verbiage. I'm not sure.
Why would you want to remove that? Why wouldn't you want to enforce it? Why would you want to remove that? Why would you want to not know the conflicts of all your appointed officials? I mean, the select board appoints all of these committees. Why would you not want to know their conflicts?
Sorry, Jason, a misunderstanding is occurring at this point, I'm afraid. The document says, it doesn't say it in the plain language like I'm saying it right now, but the document intends that only select board members need to sign for the policies.
That's your opinion. That's not what
No, it's not. It's not my opinion, Jason.
The policy says means a person elected or statutorily appointed. It says it right there, section G. I'm not making this up. I didn't write this policy.
Neither am I, Jason.
The previous select board made this policy. They signed it. It's part of our town policy. And
Jason,
because you're saying it doesn't matter, that's ridiculous.
Thank you. It's nice to have your opinion. Thank you very kindly. Thank you. It's not our opinion, folks, just so we're all clear. We sent it to VLCT. They're legal experts. They read our policy. They gave us their legal expertise. It's not my personal opinion. All right, just so you all understand.
We support you.
And we're sorry that we're not more civil, some of us.
Thank you, thank you. All right, now we'll move on to yet another issue, which might bring up a few more points here.
Yeah.
And that's that I want to just clarify, as you heard this evening already, being for the select board, that we have a relationship with a town's attorney. About 2 or 3 years ago, the Guilford's long-term town attorney resigned, sent in a resignation. She offered her services for free for many years. She was a Guilford resident. She's no longer going to be working. So she
retired.
She retired, thank you. And resigned. And so the select board at that point determined that we would, that the select board, in the interest of Guilford, would retain as legal attorneys a firm out of Burlington whose oversight is specifically in municipal law, not as opposed to a lawyer who might be a divorce lawyer in town or something who happens to have a friendly relationship with us. But this is a firm in Burlington that is municipal law. That's their practice. So they serve at the behest of a number of Vermont communities, providing legal expertise and advice. So our initial relationship with them was developed in November of 2021, and we have signed a letter which engages that firm to provide legal services to the town. And on that same date, we entered an agreement under which the firm acts as general counsel in all matters for which legal services are requested by an authorized town official. Those town officials, understood by this process, are the chair of the select board and the town administrator. The law firm understands that we are free to seek their read or their legal advice as we attempt to answer and address a number of issues that have legal considerations, and there are many, especially in the last year or so. So the select board would not be responsible to the town of Guilford if we five attempted to act in an illegal fashion for the community. I would be abstaining from every single vote where there was a legal issue involved. I want Guilford deserves to have strong legal representation. It is understood as part of statute that the municipality takes care, that's Guilford, that Guilford takes care of all legal fees related to any services that it provides for us, and that's part of our contract, as is the understanding that the chair of the select board and the town administrator may contact the attorney to discuss these issues. I want to be really clear, it's been alleged repeatedly in this town that the select board needs to meet in an open public meeting every single time it wants to contact the lawyer to talk about any issue. And that is categorically not the case. It is categorically not the case. The case is that I can speak to our lawyers to let them know about various issues that are coming before the town, and so can our town administrator, Erica. And that's what has happened consistently since we have been in, and I'll tell you that if it's not appropriate for me or for Erica to contact our lawyers or anyone else in this community, the lawyers will tell us so, which they have done a number of times about issues. They say, this is not the right place for you to bring your issue. You need to go here. They are acting in the best interests of this town. They're not acting in my personal interests. They have the broadest interests in the community in mind. So I just want to say, once again, that we are in line with statute, and we're comporting ourselves with, we hope, the most professional standard that any legal team in the state of Vermont would work with and sign a contract with a community like Guilford. So we're working very intently to be square, and we just want everyone to understand that. Thank you for listening.
Don,
Yes.
I would like to make a comment on the conflict of interest clarification, because I think that one of the things that townspeople want is transparency. Like, we hear it, we hear it, we hear it. And what is the harm in discussing having people on committees sign a conflict of interest? Like, I think that we should talk about that more. I think that if there are monetary transactions or requests from a committee, that there could potentially be conflict of interest. And I don't think it's any harm to have someone sign. It's a simple thing. You sign your name. What is your potential conflict of interest? I think that it may. I mean, I think that's what people want.
I think it's fine. And I'll just speak quickly, and I'd love to hear what other people have to say, but I think that that's fine for us to take up, and I think we can take it up.
Okay.
There's no question about that. It's not that I certainly don't have any interest in not doing that. All I'm trying to be clear about is that the law doesn't require it at this point. Our policy doesn't require it. And so it would be inappropriate for anyone in Guilford to assume that what we need to do is provide conflict of interest statements for anyone in the community. They don't exist, and they won't exist. So I'm just trying to explain that. What we do going forward, yes, let's talk about it.
Well, but I feel like the language that Jason read states that we do need to. I don't know exactly what it says.
Well,
2018.
I can tell you
if it's saying
there's a subsequent article in our conflict of interest policy of the town. This conflict of interest policy applies to all of those people, but the only people who need to sign the forms according to Article 13 of our policy is the select board. It says, in the interest of transparency at first organizational meeting of the select board annually, each select board member shall complete a conflict of interest statement and questionnaire for the ensuing year. Any new members appointed to the select board in the interim shall complete the statement and questionnaire upon their appointment. So the select board are the only people, according to our policy, that have to do that. So,
but doesn't the verbiage prior to that state that other appointed?
Yes, the policy applies, but they don't have to sign, according to this.
All right, well, I think we should talk about it.
Yeah, and again, I'll just say, that just so, again, in the interest of community understanding, that Guilford, as far as I understand, is the only town in Vermont that actually requires anybody to sign a conflict of interest statement. The policy exists, and we guard for each other, we watch for each other, and I think that's probably what Tammy's most interested in. I completely understand it, I get that. We want to watch for that kind of thing. But whether or not the piece of paper exists, that's what we're talking about. So let's look at it and see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a simple question, and you may have said it and I might not have heard it. Did you say who authorized it? Just you and Erica, or I'm sorry, Zon and Erica are authorized to speak with the lawyer? Is that what I heard?
We're not authorized. I want to be very careful about language.
Yeah, do the wording.
It's not, the select board doesn't authorize us. It's understood in the contract that we have that the lawyers need to speak with people inside this organization. Those people are understood to be me and Erica.
Okay, so that's through the lawyers that?
It's through the contract that we have with them.
With them?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if it was town policy or
No.
how it was.
No. It's it's actually more of a kind of a, as I understand it from talking with them and gaining more and more understanding, it's the general practice about how you know, I mean, one second, please. 1 second. It's the standard practice for how anyone speaks with a lawyer. There are people that can speak with a lawyer, and there are people that don't or can't, and so that's what we understand. Yeah. All right. So I'm not sure who that was. I'm not. But,
Jason has his hand.
oh, can we cross off this person there?
Which one?
Okay. I think we're ready to move ahead here. Let's go on to new business now.
Whoa. We're not having any questions taken on that topic?
Which topic?
With your statement there that only the chairman and the town administrator, what about our assistant town administrator? She's contacted the town lawyer. So there's a statute, and you claim that you said that under statute allows the chairman and the select board chairman and the town administrator to do this, but there's an actual statute that says when joint authority is given to 3 or more, that's a select board, the concurrence of a majority of such numbers shall be sufficient, which means that you need to have 3, and shall be required in its exercise. So in order for anyone to contact the town's law firm, they actually have to contact the select board. So for instance, if our lister had a question, a legal question, and she couldn't get it through the VLCT or do it on her own, she would then go to the select board and she would ask the select board to contact our town's lawyer. No different from a select board member. The select board member, according to joint authority, says that no individual select board member has any more authority than any individual member of the community. So no individual member. Hey, whoa.
No, I'm not. I'm just going to respond. I'm trying to cut you off. I'd like to respond. I think I get the gist.
Well, you just cut me off. I mean, you didn't let me finish. You raised your hand and cut me off. I'm not sure how that is.
I'm saying, but I'm not trying to cut you off. I think I get the gist of what you're saying. That's what I'm saying. I think
I'm not necessarily speaking to you, Mr. Chairman. I'm speaking to the town of Guilford. You're telling them that you and our town administrator
My job, Jason.
call the lawyer. Does any other select board member, now could Terracini contact our law firm if she had a question, or would she have to contact the select board first and ask their permission?
Jason, I have asked, I just want to respond to what you're saying quickly, and then we'll move on. I want to let you know that I have asked very specifically at least 2 or 3 times about the statute that you continually name as required for us to contact our lawyers. And the lawyers have repeatedly told me that does not stand in this particular situation. I'm sorry.
Mr. Estes, I have seen what these lawyers are telling you. I can tell that they are trying to keep these things under wraps. That statute is there clear. It's very clear. You do not have any more authority than I do to contact this town's law firm.
Thank you, Jason. I think I understand the gist. Thank you. We're moving ahead. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I know it's very frustrating for you, but there are plenty of laws that are keeping us moving the way we're going, and I'm not interested in acting in bad faith here. If that's what you assume, then you're just plain wrong about that. Okay, you're just plain wrong. I'm trying to work in the best faith, as we all are. We have an oath to this town, and we have a lot of care as select board members. That's what we're working with here. So as we respond and try to do the best we can, that's what we're doing. Thank you very much. We'll move on now to new business.
I'd still like to know what statute you're referring to that says you and Erica have the authority to talk to our law firm, but Terracini doesn't.
Thank you. So new business, under new business, section 8. This is business that we haven't faced yet at the select board meeting. We're looking at it, we'll look at it now. Liquor license for Hardy Foard. I'll let Erica lead us through that.
Well, I've mixed it up in some stuff, but it's for an event for the Boys and Girls Club, which is tomorrow or Wednesday. It's a one-time.
All right. So it's a liquor license for an event similar to what we did last time when we passed 5 of them. So it's the same thing. I'll just move that we pass this.
Oh, here it is, right.
And then, is there a second for that?
I'll second.
All right, 2 seconds, please. All right, is there any conversation here at the select board? I think this was simple enough that we can move forward.
It's so great that they're supporting the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah, that's good. All right, all in favor of passing this, or adopting, or allowing this liquor license to move forward?
Aye.
Thank you very much. All right. Now, the next issue on new business is that we have before us this evening an ARPA request, a request for ARPA dollars from the Neighborhood Roots organization in town. And we are not going to be discussing tonight whether or not we will pass or approve these funding. What we need to do this evening is appoint a select board to evaluate this, a subcommittee, excuse me, appoint a subcommittee to evaluate the proposal, consider what the ARPA committee provided as far as information about this. So if I could, I'm happy to serve on this subcommittee.
I need to recuse myself because I volunteered with Neighborhood Roots, so
Right.
I don't think it would be appropriate.
Is there one more select board member that would, thank you, Michael. All right, so I will move that we will appoint Zon Eastis and Michael Becker as the subcommittee to consider the Neighborhood Roots ARPA request and get back to the select board at the next meeting. All right. All those is there any discussion here at the table? Comfortable? To vote? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Any abstaining? All right, thank you. Now we'll move on, again, new business to animal control contracts. And again, I will turn this section over to Lisa, if you don't mind. Look at that, I just read that name up there. That's what I said, I'm so sorry. I know who you are.
We happen to have 2 annual contracts for animal control related activities. One is for the Windham County Sheriff's Office. And this was approved at town meeting, and we've been doing this for years. So we have an animal control officer via the Windham County Sheriff's Department, and they charge us $5,149.95 annually for that service.
So that's currently budgeted.
Yes, and
Right.
that's for the officer, and then for animal holding, if that comes up, we contract with the Windham County Humane Society, and they just charge us $695 a year for that, and they will take stray, domestic, canine, and feline, small domesticated pets, including reptiles and birds found within the town limits, and they will house them for us. So that's what those 2 things are.
Can you tell me the figure on the first one again?
Yeah. Oh, it's on the second page, it's highlighted.
$5,149.95.
And that is something that we pay monthly.
Broken out.
Okay.
So I think we should probably address these separately. Okay, so first let's take the contract for animal control services from the Windham County Sheriff's Office for $5,149.95. So motion?
Also move.
Thank you. Second?
Okay. Go ahead,
No, you-
Michael,
you
you
didn't
got
tell.
there first.
Okay, veranda, we'll take a second. All right.
Oh, okay.
Any discussion on that one? It's budgeted, it's part of the deal.
Yeah, what do they do exactly?
What do they do? Let's see, scope of services. They should provide regional animal control officer for us all. Town acknowledges that services rendered under this agreement are mutually beneficial to all towns. So what we're doing is we're entering into a multi-town compact here in order to hire this service. And then there's a description of what we need to do when there's a control issue, and the personnel employed to render such services shall be and remain in the control of the sheriff's office.
And before we engaged with them, animal control complaints would come to the select board, and we would have to act in our quasi-judicial framework to hold hearings and just try to adjudicate differences among people, and it was quite time-consuming and complicated because of how people feel about their animals. And so when this possibility came forward, especially considering that it was a multi-town collaboration, it seemed like a big relief in terms of like what we have to do with our time and what we can do competently.
Right, and in the past, we have had someone in Guilford be the animal control
Yeah.
person, right? And then it was just really hard to find
We
someone
didn't
to
have
do that.
anybody for a number of years, so it kind of fell. And then this, which is now part of the way that Wyndham Regional Commission, they I think this is one of their pilot projects. They have now altered their charter so that they can enter into these kind of multi-community packs for a number of different services, and this is one of those. And as I understand it, I may be wrong, but there's a minimum number of towns that need to be involved in the pact, and as more towns become involved, then apparently
Right.
our costs would go down.
Got it, thank you.
We have become advocates for the program.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining?
Just to be clear, was that, I thought we were gonna divide that into two separate?
We are. Here comes the next one.
Oh, so that was just for sheriff?
That was just for the
Animal
sheriff,
control.
sorry. Now we're looking at a contract with the Wyndham County Humane Society. And this is for holding animals that are deemed holdable. And so there's a list of what those animals are. Erica read it quickly, and so we pay them essentially an insurance fee, essentially, so that we can have their services in the case that we need to have an animal held. And that fee is $695 a year, and that's also budgeted, I think. Yes, okay. Any questions, the select board? All right, I think that's.
So that's sort of a retainer for them.
Yes.
It's not like in advance on
And I
services
don't
offered.
think they will, they obviously have done their homework, and I don't think that they will charge us any extra beyond that if things, if we suddenly.
If we have a long-term resident gerbil.
Yeah. And they base it on a 31 cent per person rate on towns over 1,000, which Guilford is. So this is budgeted. I guess we've been at this for a while. So any further questions here at the table? All right, all those.
Did we move it and second
Yeah, we
it?
moved it in second. Did we move it?
I don't think so.
Okay, let's have a motion. Oh boy, I'm tired. Have a motion.
So,
Thank you, Rusty. Second.
Aye.
Thank you.
We'll second.
Yeah, all right, great. All right, let's vote on that then. All in favor?
Aye.
I will abstain from that.
Okay, and then we have an abstention. Okay, thank you. All right, folks, then we move now on to the warrants. So,
So
Tara,
I'm gonna make a motion to
Yes.
accept the warrants as written.
that we pay the following
That we
warrants.
pay the following warrants and then we'll accept them, right?
We'll approve your motion.
Okay, so, warrants, for the week of 5/28/23, payroll was $7,132.26. for the week of 6/4/23. Payroll was $7,133.76. Payroll for the week of 6/11/23 was $7,472.59. We had an expense warrant number 2323 for $102,002.35. We had an expense warrant number 2323V for $1,058.60. And then we had an expense warrant 2323M for $3,974.39 for a total of $128,773.95.
I'll second that. Is there any comment?
Yes, so last time when I started doing this, I like to know what the sources of funds are coming from. There's a code. So Erica wrote me a really nice email, and listed all of the codes, like we paid out of the general ledger and the reappraisal fund, the highway fund, energy committee, highway capital expense, ARPA expense, and the Bullock Education Fund. That went to a student for Paul Smith's College from the Bullock Education Fund for a Guilford student, and I want to thank you guys for continuing that for so many years. Also, we had the new chipper was $47,746.40. That was approved on the select board meeting 2/27/23. We had some work done to a Foard truck, brakes, tie rods for $3,420.43, and an alignment. And then we had town's accounting software. It's made for municipalities, and our town uses it daily. At least once, getting support and guidance for best practice. And that was $6,270.20. And I just had a question about, it's a small one, for annual disaster recovery technical support. What was that?
That's part of the NEMRIC software.
Okay.
That's just a part of the package that comes with it. It's a very robust. They have a staff that we are constantly calling and asking not only questions about the software itself, but about best practices, like how do we, deal with the fiscal year end with this bill coming at June 30th or something like that. They'll answer those questions for us.
Okay, great. And that's separate than the other software? Oh no, it's right there. Sorry, it's part of the $6,270.20.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that's an annual price, and then are we paying it?
Yeah, I don't know for sure. It's definitely not monthly.
Okay, but anyway, it's part of that. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, nice job.
Sure.
Any further comments here at the table about the warrants? Okay, let's, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, very kindly. All right, we have, before we get on, we have in other business, we have a lister consideration that I need to bring forward to us all and to the community. The town of Guilford has a practice of electing 3 listers to the lister board who work in association with the assessor clerk on the property appraisals in our town in order to get toward taxation. We've had one vacancy for a long time, a number of years, and this week, on June the 8th, Sean Murphy has resigned his position as lister. We need to accept his resignation. That's one gesture. And the other, I don't think we'll be able to act on this evening, but I just want to alert you that we need to, on very short order, secure the services of at least one more lister prior to June 22nd, which is the grievance hearing date. So we have less than 2 weeks to see if we can find a lister who will sit with the lister board and listen to the grievances that will be presented on June the 22nd.
Wow.
There's also a list of other responsibilities necessary. So this is a heavy lift for us. I will say that I did a bit of research, and maybe Erica can corroborate. I did a bit of research. We need to find someone from our community. It can't be any one of us, so no select board member can offer to sit even at the grievances as an interim lister. And then we also need to, that lister will have responsibilities. There's a job description, and they're both, I'm not sure that the town has a job description. I'm not sure that we do, but there certainly is one at the state level about what the requirements are. And then there's an oath that the person has to take. There's also the possibility that if we're not able to secure the services of or the volunteer services, very low paid services of a lister for here from Guilford, we can appoint a non-resident to the position. So in either case, we're going to be appointing someone. That would be our hope. And what it means to appoint a non-resident, I can't speak to that entirely. I'll learn more about what that all means, who we can and who we can't, invite to be a lister for us. So I'll learn about that and try to get clear about that. But I just want to let you know that that's on our docket and will be something that we need to pay attention to.
So
post-haste.
will we try to, beat the bushes, alert the troops? It would be good to have a job description including what the pay is, no matter how puny.
Yes, I think we'll make that available. I'll be working with Erica on this, and Erica will be communicating with all of us to let us know how it works. So we may need to have a special select board meeting, a brief select board meeting special, so that, and I can't set a date yet, at which we will be appointing this person between now, because the next select board meeting is on the 26th of June, which is after the fact. So.
But I think it's also really important that everybody who is at this meeting think about whether they know somebody, that they're willing to ask somebody to serve our town in this capacity, because it's really important.
Sure, I think that would be it would be great, and there's a process by which we would receive the names. I don't know exactly what it looks like yet. I'll have to discern all that. Just putting this all together very quickly here as we go. So, but we do need to accept Sean's letter this evening. So accept his resignation. So I'll just move that that the select board accepts Sean Murphy's resignation dated June 8th.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Michael.
And I think that we really need to thank him for his years of service to this town as a lister and all of the other ways that he's really extended himself.
Yeah. I think, exactly. So is there any other discussion? I see Jason's hand is up.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think, we just had our reappraisal, and people are seeing their tax bill go from, increase by 20 to 40% of their value of their home, increase by 20, 40, even 50%. And then we're going to have these grievances, but the lister who is a part of this is not going to be a part of the grievances. And you're going to try to find someone who's then going to hear the grievances, who had no process in any of this. I mean, I would beg our lister Sean there to stay through the grievances, and I feel like it's very inappropriate for him to step down at this point, I believe, unless there's some serious medical or personal issues, and then I understand, but I don't see how you can appoint a new lister at this point and have them have any effect or understanding of the processes where the grievances are next week.
Thank you.
So if we ask him to stay just through the grievances, is he willing to just stay a couple more, not even, it's like 2 weeks. He did this process, he should stay for the grievances.
I think what I would recommend, Jason, I thank you. I mean, you're feeling the select board's pressures here. You're feeling some of the stresses that we come under for this kind of thing. So we have just accepted his resignation, which is probably what we'll persist in doing. So I think if there are community members who want to speak to.
I don't believe you voted on that, Mr. Chairman. You haven't voted on his resignation.
Oh, that's right. We haven't voted on it. Well, let's see what happens.
Well, I mean, I guess now we know how you're going to vote on it, but could we ask him? He's sitting right there.
No, he's
No,
not.
he's gone.
He's gone. I'm sorry. He left. So he's not here now. So thank you. Thanks very much.
You're going to accept his resignation, and the next week is when it's over.
Knowing Sean, I think it's only respectful to accept the thought that I'm sure he has put into this.
Yes, I think that's right.
I saw minutes.
Resign.
Sean Murphy resigned as lister.
Kyle, I see your name up. Would you be willing to adjust your name so that we can see your first and last name, please? I know who you are, but it'd be great if we could see. And also Lisa as well. If you could put your last name up with your first name. This is for our record keeping. It's not like we're trying to, pry in any way. We just need to keep records here. So thank you. All right. So all that's been said, hear everything and concerned. So there's a motion on the table to accept Sean's resignation. So I'll ask for, are we ready to vote? Okay, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor of accepting?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, thank you. So Jason, at this point, I would recommend that if there are community members, maybe you'd like to talk to Sean yourself, and maybe he would, that would be something to consider, or maybe some community members would like to speak to that. So
you just voted him down. There's nothing I can do at this point. You'd have to reappoint him.
Exactly.
You'd have to nominate and you'd have to reappoint him. What can I do at this point? You just exonerated him from any responsibility for where our tax bills are where they are right now. He's not going to have to answer to any of it. I think that's completely inappropriate. As people are seeing there,
I think there is something.
You look at that.
I think there is something you could do if you wanted to. So take just.
What is that? What could I do?
I just recommend you might want to speak with him and suggest that just exactly what you said. Just speak with him about that. He would probably be willing to hear you. Thank you. All right, we'll move ahead now to communications. I don't believe there are any communications this evening. I'd like to just clarify, because I've seen it out in the community, that what this part of the agenda is about. Communications is we label it this because these are any time any citizen in Guilford, or anyone actually, writes to the select board or writes to all five of us individually, we treat that as a communication which we bring and acknowledge here as a communication that has arrived and has been received by the select board. And then we figure out what the next steps and actions are. It's not meant to be a general open time of discussion. That's the impression that I got from reading it online. So I just want to clarify that for folks. All right, so there are no communications tonight. Is that right, Michael? Thanks. All right, so thank you, folks. We'll go on to the next section, which is we quickly read through the actions. So we acknowledge the work that we did at our last meeting, which was we approved minutes. We named Tara and Veranda as select board goals, as members of a select board goals subcommittee. We named both the Reformer and the Commons as the newspaper of record. We approved part-time highway crew hiring for the summer. We named Michael and Rusty as a subcommittee on Green River parking and asked for a recommendation. We approved Basin paving for the Weatherhead Hollow paving job. We tabled ditching repair bids, which we took up this evening, and we approved the warrants. That's what we did last time. This time, we need to go through this. We approved minutes tonight.
But we added an item to the agenda.
Thank you. Stay with me, Brandon, you're so good. We added an item, we moved to add an item to the agenda.
Go slow enough so we can.
Okay, yeah, thank you. We went, we added that to other business. Then we approved the minutes. We approved the application of a generator grant proposal that Dan Ingold brought to us and recommends that we consider. We didn't adjust, we will see, so that's later. that would be under actions to be taken. I'll try to get back to those in a second. We, with the Potash Drive in old business, in the Potash Drive issue, the select board approved a reopening of the question of discontinuing Potash Drive from the town road list. We adopted the select board goals frame, and though we know there will be continuing action on that. We took the recommendation of the parking at Green River Bridge in subcommittee. We made a motion to accept Dan's recommendation to complete an RFP or for an RFP to MT3 at the lowest bid, which he checked out with the I forget who it was that he checked it out with, but it's Wyndham Regional. Thank you. Thanks very much. We then approved a liquor license this evening for an event. We named a subcommittee to look at the neighborhood Roots ARPA request proposal, and we approved warrants.
Oh, the animal control.
Oh, thank you. We did 2 different animal control motions, contracts, 2 different contracts for animal control. One with the Sheriff's Department and one with the Humane Society. Thank you. And then we approved the warrants. And then finally, the last action we took was that we accepted a resignation as a lister from Sean Murphy. Actions to be taken, we will hear from Dan Ingold at a future meeting about the satellite phone contract renewal. And then we will also hear from the ARPA, from a subcommittee on a particular ARPA request.
And
Dan Ingles was also the grant, wasn't he?
We approved, we already did that in approving
Yeah,
that, yeah.
but we'll also will refine the goals
Okay,
and
yeah, we'll continue,
yeah, to refine the goals and, you know, certainly move forward with the capital budget plan.
Yes, we have to learn how to do that for sure. Okay, I think that's everything. Anybody see anything else that I've missed?
I'd like to have a discussion about the conflict of interest
Okay,
policy
good,
and
thank
the
you.
verbiage
Good.
and the pros and cons.
Yep.
And add that to the next meeting.
All right. What we'll do is we'll get some background information from VLCT about what they have all sorts of templates about what a best practices policy could look like. I'm not sure it might already be what we have, but we'll check it out and then have that conversation. Good. All right, actions to be taken. I think we're done with actions to be taken. Now there's one final action, and that would be that we adjourn. So I would accept a motion for that.
I so move.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a second?
Sure.
All right, thank you, Miranda. All right, we need to vote on that. So is there any discussion here at the select board? Okay. All in favor of adjourning this evening?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, thank you, folks. This meeting is complete, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks very much.